Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to discuss with you guys how to press every day, or at least 6 days a week, without overtraining, without injuries. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's go into this. Let's cover this. Alright, this was asked in a video I did a day or two ago, and I'm going to go ahead and link it down below about how to squat every day without overtraining. And you guys probably need to watch that video if you want to know this, to understand the basics of it, of Bulgarian light style training, how to avoid things like psychological arousal, setting daily minimums, all of that stuff. Go check that video out. It gives you my full take on that, because at least half of that information is going to apply to pressing. Now, someone had asked me in that video, could a person bench every day? Or any sort of press every day? And the answer is yes, because that's what I do. I press 6 days a week now too. I come in and I do some sort of squat, some sort of press, and some sort of pull to a heavy training max, 1, 2, or 3 rep training max. That's what I do every day. Now, there's a couple different approaches here, because the shoulder joint's a little more complex. You have more complex development on this. You don't just come in and just do one exercise every day and just do that 6 days a week. You can get away with that to the squat, and eventually you will need to add variation in with the squat, but you're less likely to develop imbalances that way, particularly because you're going to be pulling with some hip hinging. You're going to be deadlifting or power cleaning some no matter what. That'll balance anything back out, even if you're just doing a normal high bar or low bar squat 6 days a week. Again, shoulder joint, you've got more to worry about. You have more total muscles involved in your torso, more functions. In other words, lower body, you have squatting and hip hinging. Upper body, you got vertical press, horizontal press, vertical pull, horizontal pull. A lot more complexity, and you've got to think about overuse patterns, injury prevention, muscle balance a little bit more. Now, most people are going to be pressing every day either to get a maximum press, a maximum bench press, two different movements. We can press with the overhead press, right? Overall muscular development in their upper body, or maybe even wanting to focus more on like that yoked look or some functional performance. There's a couple different ways to approach it. Now, Greg Knuckles always says, well, you could just bench every day. You could do that. You could do that, because he doesn't believe the overhead press contributes that much to bench pressing. You can get higher specificity of training. I disagree. I think the overhead press absolutely positively impacts the bench press, because it is a massive deltoid and tricep builder. And the data we have on that's pretty good at this point. And the situation is, if people didn't believe that bigger, stronger triceps and delts contribute to the bench press, no one would do any accessory work ever. There would be no point in ever doing any. Yet people do that stuff. So again, it doesn't make sense to me. The other issue we run into is that he'll say, well, you could put a much stronger bias on the bench versus the overhead press. I believe that you could do that, and this is where I'll defer to even guys like the starting strength guys in Ripto. They talk about people who just want to get generally strong. They recommend a bench to an overhead press in a 1-to-1 ratio. Whereas then they might have a competitive powerlifter bench to overhead press in a 2-to-1 ratio. But they are more likely to get hurt in the long term. And I agree with that. I think they need to be closer to a 1-to-1 ratio. And I think that your press needs to be at least 2/3 of your flat bench in order to have a lower chance of injury due to better shoulder girdle stability. So I would say, yeah, a person is a competitive powerlifter. They could flat bench 4 days a week and press twice a week. And I think that's the safest route. You're going to get enough specificity of training. You're going to get good muscle balance. You could do that. Now, me right now, I'm not flat benching. I'm floor pressing. But I also touch my chest on the floor press. I'm thick enough to do that. Front to back, I can touch my chest on the floor press. It's not a problem. I do it 3 times a week. So in that case, what I do personally, because I'm shooting right now for overall balance, I want my floor press to go up to help my bench, and I treat the overhead press like a primary movement. I want to get my press strong. I have strength goals on that exercise specifically. So I rotate through them. I do every other day, I rotate the floor press. One day, press, meaning the standing strict press. The next, floor press, then press, floor press, then press. That's how I do it personally. But a person could take Greg Knuckles' advice, but I think it is higher injury risk, but it's doable. Just come in and flat bench 4 days a week and overhead press 2 days a week. You do it that way. Now, other people don't care about the bench press. But I'm going to say to people, you still need to do some sort of horizontal press and some sort of vertical press. Some people don't care about that and they just want bigger shoulders. And I'm going to recommend you need another type of press though, besides just overhead pressing, for overall muscle balance, to have some pectoral development even if you don't care about it. So if a person absolutely abhors the bench press, they don't want to touch the bench press, they care more about their shoulders, do dips. You could overhead press 4 days a week. You could press 4 days a week and do dips twice. Right? Weighted dips, assuming you can do those. If you don't want a massive chest, though, it's something because some people don't want that look. And you just want to balance it out, you could always, or you can't do dips on top of that. You could use a closed grip bench press or a closed grip floor press 2 days a week. Again, you need the overall balance. But what I'm going to say here is there's a lot of directions you could go with this. Because if you really wanted to put a heavy emphasis on your shoulder girdle, let's say, because there's a lot of discussion of this, people talking about getting this yoke look to overdevelop their overall shoulder girdle to look like a guy who's on gear who isn't. And if you get strong enough and you build enough muscle mass and you maximize your total potential and you get lean enough, you could definitely attain a look that some people would think is an enhanced look. The trained eye is still going to pick it out and be like, no, it's still not there. But you get close enough to where you can at least be accused of using gear. And if you wanted that route, I would recommend, do shoulder specialization on a system like this. And go ahead and get athletic while you do it. So here's what I'm going to say. What other exercises do you need to develop your entire shoulder girdle? Where's your focus going to be? A lot of cleaning, snatching, right? Those things will help balance your entire shoulder girdle out. So what I would say to a person who's already developed a decent overhead base, do the strict press, more overhead work. So I would say a person, if they want to avoid injuries and fully develop their shoulder girdle for that to be, again, a shoulder dominant look, okay, you've got other options here. Since you're already going to squat, you're already going to pull every day also. What you pick on those matters also. So what I would say, you could come in and have just 2 days a week where you do weighted dips, and that'll help your overall tricep development, your lower chest, all of that. It will help bring those up because that will impact your overhead press. But you want to avoid overuse injuries and you want to maximize shoulder girdle development. 2 of your days could be the strict press, and then 2 of your days the push press. Now you've got a lot of exercise variation in there, right? You're going to have everything well developed. You're going to be able to develop your chest. You're going to be able to develop your triceps off all of this. And it's going to hammer your whole shoulder girdle. All 3 heads of the delts and the traps are going to get hit a lot by hitting a really heavy push press twice a week and a really heavy overhead press twice a week. How do we balance the rest of that out? Weighted chin-ups 2 days a week. And here's what I'm going to say. If you're going to go into something like this and your goal is maximizing the development of your shoulder girdle, which again would be a reason people would want to press 6 days a week. When we start looking at the other exercises, you could specialize in that. And this is not saying this is the only way to do any of this. I'm saying that when you take a system like this, your specialization doesn't have to be a movement pattern. Meaning, a person could squat, bench, and deadlift and specialize in that. But this same system applies to developing other things also. And this is just one example. A person wanted to obtain what everyone's calling that yoked look. All right, that's what you would do on your pressing. Well, what's going to make you better at a push press? Front squats. Front squats and power cleans, because it teaches you to get into the rack position and how to squat in the rack position. So how about instead of back squatting 6 days a week, you take 2 of your back squat days and you do front squat days. 2 of your pulls every week, because you don't necessarily have to deadlift on this system. You don't have to. To your pull days, well, if you're going to do chin-ups just to make sure rear delts, bicep lats, and all that get good development, you get good strength on the chin-up, you could do power cleans 2 of those days. What other exercise do we have here that's going to be a tremendous shoulder builder? How about the power snatch? It's going to work all 3 heads of the delts. It's going to work the traps. All right, it's going to build up your whole shoulder girdle. It's going to train you to be more explosive, more powerful. That's going to carry over to all this other stuff. You could snatch 2 of your days a week. The power cleans are going to help with that already. How about if you don't care quite as much, you're not trying to 100% maximize leg development, you're okay with, just getting to a 450 or 500 squat. All right. How about 2 of your squat days you could overhead squat? So now think about the sort of variation that we have, because the overhead squat's going to carry over and help your snatch. This would be an example of a shoulder and athletic specialized version of a Bulgarian type training. Even though the movement variation is very, very, very high, because we have 3 different squats, 3 different presses, 3 different pulls. You could do this. You could absolutely do this. Very workable. So you'd have 2 back squat days, 2 front squat days, 2 overhead squat days for your squats. Your presses, you have 2 days for weighted dips or closed grip floor press. Because again, if you're wanting to completely avoid the bench press and the deadlift for whatever reason, so you'd have 2 days of dips, 2 days of the strict standing press, 2 days of the push press for your presses. Pulls, 2 days of chin-ups just to balance all of that out. Make sure you have some bicep, rear delt, lat work in there. And chin-ups are a good exercise. 2 days of power cleans, 2 days of power snatches. Now, if a person did this, they would have tremendous shoulder development. They would still be all around strong, and they're more likely to, again, to develop all facets of their upper chest, their upper body, their shoulder girdle, all of that. This is the way that you would train if you wanted that sort of look, because that's also becoming popular right now also. That's what I would recommend. If a person wanted to use a system like this, they wanted to use a press every day to do this. On the other end, like I said, you could always do Greg Knuckles' version, where he says, you could just bench 4 days a week and overhead press twice. It'll be fine. Again, I think that's higher injury risk, but it works. You get really strong on the bench that way. Just following that with the same rules I gave in the squat everyday video. So I'm recapping this. You could go as extreme as this yoked thing, or you could get somewhere in the balance like what I'm talking about, where you bench or floor press 3 days a week and press 3 days a week. I will eventually rotate other stuff in, like the push press, dips, things like that. Because like with anything else, when you're doing a system like this, if you start to see staleness in a motor pattern, you're not getting stronger, you're eating enough, you're sleeping enough, that's when you need to start rotating in some movement variations. And they're just good for general prevention of overuse injuries and bringing up weak points. So don't even get too stagnant in what you do on this. You will need to rotate these ratios. You will need to rotate in exercises from time to time, just for general strength, general development, and injury prevention, rather than an excessive focus on pure specificity. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.